Welcome back. Last episode we made our new item we created known to the engine. So whenever the game starts up, we will be able to see the model we created in Blender in the game in real time. And when we walk over it, we will get a health boost. And this is actually the problem right now. We just copied the behavior of our large item health pickup item and connected with our new item vaccine, we called it. So in this episode, we want to actually finish our item by creating our own behavior. So whenever we walk over it, our new pickup item will make us run faster. All right, so let's get started. So this is where we left last time, right? We created this pickup function for our new item. We called it pickup vaccine, and it will be called whenever the player walks over the new item. However, as I just said, the functionality of this function is exactly the same like a pickup health. So it will do or behave exactly the same as a health item lying around. So we want to change that now. So here you can see other is the player actually. So if we make a breakpoint here and we start the game, right? The player, we touched our new item and it made a breakpoint here. So if we look what other actually is, I already have it here. Let me just kill the other things here in the watch window. Other, and we should have a class name here, and it says player. So this is the player we're controlling. Entity, end, is, if we look at class name, is our item vaccine. And so the health will be boosted for our player, whatever our item provides. So let's stop. And as you could see, maybe just start it again. I changed during last episode and this episode, I changed the model of our new item because it was quite ugly what we created last time, or what I created. It's not your fault, sorry. So I spent a little bit of time in Blender and made this coffee cup. Let's make ourselves a god, so we don't actually get shot by these guys. So yeah, I changed the item, and I think it just is a little bit nicer. And as we want to make the player run faster, I think item is the coffee cup is more appropriate. So that also means I will change the name of the vaccine to coffee later on. But let's first let's actually get into the code and make our item, the player, run faster. So what we actually want is something like other and maybe speed plus equals entity and then count. And so we get rid of this. And actually this doesn't work. So if we compile this and jump back into the game, we run over it. Actually, the speed is still the same. So let's crank it up to, because count might be something pretty low. So crank it up to 1,000 maybe. And we don't know the scale of speed either. So we don't know if 1,000 is a lot or not. So, but let's run this, and yeah, kind of nothing is really happening here. So what I found, if we go to, we set a breakpoint here. Oh, actually it didn't break. Why didn't it? Let me check. Oh, it kind of hasn't compiled it correctly. Let's see, G items, it's in the game code. Let's make a rebuild. So, and make a breakpoint here again. I hope this works now. So now it works. But actually, yeah, let's run further. So see, it's still like it doesn't work. There's no change in the player speed. Okay, run again and inspect what speed is. So if we go here, other, and check the speed, where is it? Speed. It's all 0. Acceleration, deceleration, everything is 0. And velocity is the only thing we could probably change. But what I found is, I think, and if someone knows, please let me know, speed, acceleration, deceleration, they are set during the calculation of the new player position, but then reset every frame. So at this point, if we add 1,000 here, so now it's 1,000, later on in the code, it will be set to 0 again, but I don't know exactly where. So what I did, I said I made I created a new variable for this entity type, and I called it as a boolean has coffee, and we set it to true. So I just show you what I did, and then maybe later we can kind of figure out how to do this more properly, but at least it works. So of course this doesn't exist yet. So we go here into the actual structure, and down here I want to create a new boolean, and we call it has coffee. All right. So, and on startup, this should be 0. So the Q boolean, what is it actually? It's an enum. So this will be 0 on startup. And now this exists, but of course it doesn't do anything yet. The actual code that does the movement of the player is actually being done, as I found out, not in the game DLL, but in the executable in Quake 2, so in the core engine. And I will show you, there is a function called pmove, and I don't remember right off the bat where exactly in what file it was, so let's look for it. Okay, there is a lot going on. This is all capture the flag code. So here we are in the game DLL, and let's see actually where it's called. So here's the function pointer, and this is part of the game import structure. And maybe I should talk about this in a second. So let's see. So if you watched one of the earlier episodes, I talked about how this engine is split up into several components. These components need a way to talk to each other. And this is exactly what we see in this structure you just saw. There's a struct called game import. And all the struct is the interface, so to speak, between the core engine or main engine, so the executable, and the game itself, the game DLL. So between those two components. The functions provided by the main engine are callable by the game. And here this function pmove, player movement code common with client prediction. And this is why I think the player movement is actually part of the core engine. To do this prediction and also to be able to work properly over networking, I think. So let's see where pmove is actually being called. And as a matter of fact, we need to create a type of game import, and through this type we can call all these functions. So and I think it's called game import gi dot and then pmove. Yes. Or maybe not. Game p client. Ah, here it is. Okay, so there is a function, the client think, and down here you see this gi pmove, and it gives provides this PM thing. So what is PM? This is a pmove type. And we do not see anything regarding movement really. There's a movement state, but there is also this user command. So let's see here. And this is interesting. So apparently the pmove struct has kind of the current state of the user input regarding, especially regarding forward move, side move, and up move. So when we change those, we can actually make the player run faster or slower, because they serve as an kind of acceleration to the movement vector. So if we go actually and see, if we make a breakpoint here, right, and we step into pmove, and now we are actually within the core engine. So if I check, there is a shortcut actually I just learned. It's control, the left bracket and S, and then we find the file that we are in, to what project it belongs to. So and here we see, okay, this is probably global, kind of global to this file maybe. So pmove, or actually to this component. And here we can see something with velocity. And then later on, let's see, drop time counter. There is something called air move. And I do not remember exactly where it was, but let's go in here. So an air move is actually not only, or I should say probably, it's also called when the player is not flying, so to speak, so is not in a jump position, but actually is on the ground. And let's see. Okay, but what I found is here we have this PM command forward move, side move of this structure I showed you earlier. This user command, this one, right? Which is part of the pmove struct. So, and here's the forward move and the side move. So what if we change those? And because what we see here, there's the wish velocity, kind of the velocity the player wants to have. And this is a vector combined of the forward move and side move, as you can see here. And so let's see, actually, if we stop debugging and what we do is just we multiply those by 2, and maybe the player is twice as fast now. Let's see. So, and of course this happens now, this should now happen without the player ever touching this. So the player is still the same speed, right? So there's something else preventing us from making the player run faster. So let's go again to this function, the air move, and let's see. So here you can see the max speed. So if the player is actually in a ducked position, so crouching, it will set the max speed to this duck speed. Otherwise, if we are just running and not in a ducked position, it will clamp the, as you see, yeah, it even says clamp, server-defined max speed. And here, I think now I understand why this is not being done in the game DLL. The user could modify, but part of the main engine, because if you play over network, it probably would be easy for it would be easier to kind of cheat the game, because the game DLL was released as open source, so to speak. So modders could hack into it and change the behavior, right? But not the main executable. I think, at least, the main executable was not released initially. It was the whole source code of the game was released much later, or a little bit later after release of the game. So in order to prevent cheating, they had it in the main executable. So it would take more effort actually to change this max speed variable to something higher, because you would need kind of to reverse engineer the executable and use a hex editor to kind of hack it, and probably not easy to find. So, but if we check here, it's set to 300. What if we set it to 3000? So let's go here and run again. Let's see what happens. So now this feels much faster, and so it did something, but actually cranked this up to something even more extreme. And even, yeah, maybe, let's see. And again, at this point, we're just messing around, right? We don't even know the values of max speed. But see, this is crazy fast now. But we only want to have this behavior when we walk over our item. And I would like to keep this unmodified, but rather we provide the PM, right, which is set on entry of the P move. So if we go to P move, where's the PM, and this P move comes from the game DLL, as we saw earlier. If we look here, GI P move, right? So what we could do, maybe we say, and the command, by the way, the user command is set here. So what we could do here is say, if our player, and do we actually have access to the player? Yeah, this is the entity. If ent has coffee, then we say player move command, and then what was it called? A forward move, and then we multiply it by 2, and the same for the side move. All right. So if the player has coffee, is kind of pumped, then he can or she can run much faster. So let's compile this, and actually also the main executable, because we changed it again. So the only thing we changed in the main executable is the maximum speed the player can get. So now we still, it's fine, right? We walk normally. I want to put us in God mode. And now I walk through the coffee cup and we can run faster. And actually to see this much better, again, we crank this up to something pretty extreme. So all good, we just run, and now if I touch it, like, it's super fast. And obviously this level is way too small for all this. So yeah, that is actually all there is to it. And the only, like, the thing that bugs me a little bit is if we go back to G items, you might want to have the code cleaner, I would say, if we could just say here in other that the speed of our player is larger, right? So we do not have to go through all the code and have a if statement every frame and to check if the player is fueled with caffeine. But I mean, it works, right? And my question, my only real question I have now, as I said earlier, initially only the game DLL, I believe, was public as an open source to the community when the game released, so the mods could be made. There actually was no way to make the player run faster, only with the source code of the game DLL available, because we had to change the maximum speed the player can go. And if we go in pmove C, right, this this file is part of the main executable, because whatever we did on the game side, the game DLL, within this file or within this component, the game, there still is the PM max speed, which is set to 300. And this code was not available to the community, it was not there. So, and it kind of seems a little bit odd to me that there maybe was no way to make the player run faster. It seems like a very simple thing you might want to do as a modder, but as I see it, there is no way to actually do that. Maybe there is some flag or something you could set. So I'm really curious, and I'd really like to know if there is a way to make the player run faster without touching the main executable. I mean, now that we have the whole engine to our hands, it doesn't really matter, but still, I'd be really interested. So, and to conclude, I actually built another level to make kind of use of this new item properly, or more use. And let's see, actually, I called it, or maybe I would have to recompile it. Let me see. Let's go to the Quake dev, and I messed around a little bit with it. So I have to check if this is still actually working. Yeah, because I did some lighting stuff. I commented out the radiosity tool. So let's say build, and I just called it M, and let's start the engine. As you can see, it takes a little longer to compute. But here we go. So first of all, we get the shotgun. There's the coffee, right? And there is lava down there, and we might not want to fall down. And there is a bridge, but this bridge is broken and the gap is quite wide. So if I try to jump over it, right, I die. And so let's do it properly and first drink some coffee. Oh, bad aiming, even with a shotgun. Let's go here and woo, okay. So I guess we still had it set to to this extreme, yeah, to 5. Let's actually set it down a little bit. And this is also something, now we have this magic value here. Maybe also something we want to have kind of somewhere else, maybe in the entity, kind of a field that says has coffee and then kind of the coffee booster or something. But for now, let's keep it that way. And load the other map. All right. So now we can comfortably jump over it, and the kind of the level is not finished. There is a guy actually, and ouch. Yeah, so this is something you could do with a new pickup item, and there are a few more things actually we need to take care of and I want to address later. So if we go back to the, or just wait, let me actually, to demonstrate this, what I mean, and it's regarding the lighting. If you watched some of the early episodes, we realized that our pickup item was way too bright, right? And to demonstrate this again, I want to start it up without any radiosity computed. And so let's look at our cup. And we made this texture in Blender. We exported it as 24-bit RGB Targa file, right? We made the engine load Targa files. But if we didn't pay attention to the Quake palette. So these colors in this cup are actually kind of off, too bright, because we didn't pay attention to the Quake palette. And this is something I want to address later. So if we actually go back here to Quake Dev, and I think I have a folder called assets where I put the here's the mark. I didn't actually want to start Blender. I just wanted to show the texture. So this is still the old texture. I wish. Let's go to the base Quake 2 models. What was it? Items, Python, vaccine, and the skin TGA. So this is actually, these are the colors we want to see in the engine, but let's start it again. This is not at all what it looks like, right? As you can see on this side, maybe more acceptable, but here it's overly bright because there's kind of this shimmering, shiny effect on it. And as you can see, like it doesn't look anything at all. Also, the coffee itself is kind of a very ugly green yellowish color, whereas it should be brown. So this is something I want to address in a later video. But for now, I want to conclude this episode, and I hope I could help someone kind of get start out or start to swim with exploring the Quake 2 engine with the source code a little bit at least. And as you may have noticed, I have, by all means, I'm not an expert, but it's kind of really fun to just explore and hack around and see what effect it has on the engine. And I think bit by bit, you can kind of get more understanding how the things work together. And I really encourage everyone to, as an exercise maybe, to maybe spend a week or two and explore the engine, especially if you're just starting out with programming maybe. I do think it's not only a lot of fun, but you kind of get more of a sense how kind of large projects are constructed properly. And despite the fact this engine is so old, it actually is it's very readable. It's quite clean, in my opinion. And yeah, so thank you for watching and see you in the next one.